Hello and welcome to the video for the solutions to the Chapter 3 homework. So what we'll have on the screen here is problem number 4. So this is what I was looking for in terms of a pivot table. You'd put in your rows the different degree types, or major types. Then you'd have a count of major and the average monthly salary. So if we scroll down here, you can see over here what your panel should look like. So you put your major in your rows and then the summation in the columns, and then you can have a count of your major here and the average monthly salary. So when you were asked to provide those answers to part A, you can say that the pivot table shows that accounting major has the greatest number with 28. So a lot of you are just putting the bare minimum of the answer. So it's accounting, and you're not giving me a count of the major, or you're not providing the salary. And I want you to really think about, with data analytics, it's about providing the information and not just a short, curt answer. So if they're saying, okay, what's the major with the most number? You say accounting and then you give a number. If they say, what's the minimum salary for a major? You give that major name and then you give the salary. And so if you're just giving really short answers, then you probably lost some points on that. So for question B, like I was saying, that accounting has the highest average starting monthly salary is $420. If you change the value field settings from average to max, you'll see that accounting has the highest starting salary at $56.50. And if you change that to min, you see that the management student has the lowest starting salary. That's for part C. If you didn't give those numbers or didn't give those majors, then you lost points on that. If you still have questions, contact me and I'll try and explain it a different way or use some better examples. So the next problem was problem number 5. So problem number 5, you were asked for the U.S. locations. So I was looking for something like this. And so you would need your grouping that went from 0 to 999. Your ending would be 39,999 again. And then you could see the answers I was looking for on A is 13 franchises have between 0 and 9,999 location. 3 franchises have more than 30,000. And you get that by looking here and here. Some people just highlighted the 2, and I guess they're waiting for me to decide which one is which one can do, but you didn't answer the question. You just highlighted things. And so be complete in your responses to the questions. So if we look at the pivot table, you would see something like U.S. locations, count of U.S. locations. And now some of you had problems doing the grouping. Let me pull up one and you can see what the grouping looks like. So if I click on that first cell there, I do a right click on that, I go to group, and you can see the values then starting at 0, going to 39,999 by 10,000 each time. That way, because if you go to 0, that counts as one slot, and then 10,000 would leave it at 9,999. So that's all you had to do for that correct grouping. The next problem was problem number 6, and you should have produced a 5-year average return on these different funds, and you should have gotten a pivot table that looked like the following. So when you go to answer part B, then I was looking for something about who had the lowest average returns and so on. So this we have here something is fairly in depth. Let me shrink that down so you might be able to see it all. But this is something I was looking for. I know that many of you probably haven't had a finance class, so I was looking for something coherent that made sense with the data that you had. To see how the grouping was again, this grouping started at 0, went to 59.99 by 10 each time, and so that's what it produces. Okay, so that's how you would have got that. I know a couple of you had problems doing the grouping and getting the correct classes or groups up here. The last problem asked you to produce a graph. I was looking for a graph similar to this, but mainly the one that looked like this one. So you would need to arrange it so that 10 would come first, and then you should have the number of sales contracts above the columns here. And you need a x-axis title and a y-axis title and a title for your graph. If you left any of that off, you lost points on that. And that's all I was looking for this week's assignment.